Hi, this is Trilby D Johnson. I'm here with Brenton Grosser-Czech from Brenton-Consulting.org, and today we're going to be talking about Brenton's man-to-man work and Secret Garden Master. So welcome, Brenton. I'd love to know what led you to do the work you do.
Well, thank you, Trilby. Well, being born probably into a male body started the ball rolling, and from there, lots of different experiences that I had regarding the energy world. Yep.
Thanks. So I know that you do holistic facilitation for men only, and as you've just said, being the person that you are and being a man in today's world certainly has its challenges and unique experiences. So I think it's really, as a woman, I think it's really great that you're stepping up and supporting men in finding their expression of masculine energy. So I think your Secret Garden Masters, you've got some really interesting blogs there, how Secret Garden Master came around.
Thank you for the question. Yeah. It came about through the continual uncomfortableness of the energy world and body work, being told that female energy, divine female energy, was the only way to express oneself. And being a male, it was extremely difficult to continue to fulfill this without getting to the point where turning into a female was an option. The blog came about by trying to encourage the masculine energy to harmonize and be recognized as an important energy form within today's world.
Thanks, Brenton. That's great. I know you're a Reiki master. You're my Reiki master, and I'm very grateful for that. So can you talk a bit about the role that Reiki has played in your life? And some people are saying that Reiki has become corrupted. Can you comment on that?
Reiki has definitely not been corrupted. The people that have chosen to use Reiki may be. I remember when I first started Reiki, I was warned against people that may lead the energy in a particular way, and that you should always choose the person you do a session with very carefully. And until recently, I believed that could not happen or affect me, and I have been proven wrong. That yes, even in a Reiki session, it is possible to corrupt the energy and lead it in a particular way, but in the end, it is up to the individual to receive what they choose to receive. And that includes energy that needs recycling or pure, untapped or uncensored universal energy.
Thanks. That's really interesting information, and I find that it clarifies a lot of misunderstanding around what people term the New Age, and I feel it goes beyond that, which is really cool. So now, being a female, I have very much been, of course, hearing about the goddess energy, and as you touched on it, where did that leave men? So I think it's really great that you've stepped up, and I think that men, well, they need to be shown how to be men in a different way than maybe old stereotypes have shown us. And from what I've seen on your website, that's the kind of facilitation you offer. I also know that you're a stay-at-home dad, a very important role, and that you spend your days looking after your two boys. And I find this very interesting. Would you like to share a bit of your experience of being a stay-home dad, and maybe help our listeners, and I think especially if there are any ladies listening, to see the parallels between stay-at-home parents?
Well, I don't consider myself as a stay-at-home dad, but my wife and I made, before we had children, that one of us should take on the role of minding and educating and assisting our children. And at the time our children arrived, I chose to be the person that was to stay at home, and in my naivety I thought it wouldn't matter the difference between the sexes, that the interest and the world around us would accept that as being wholesome and nurturing. I quickly learnt that that wasn't the case, and that men's roles were supposed to be outside of the home and come back very late in the evening and all sorts of other things that I do not align with at all.
Thanks, that's really great and interesting. So are you, what if I understand correctly, that what women have been blaming or saying that men treat them in a certain way, that you actually found that this was working the other way as well? Is that right?
Absolutely. It was obvious to me that it wasn't only women that thought that this was inappropriate behaviour for a man. It was also the men finding it was inappropriate. For me, my sex did not make me capable of. It was the intention, not the sex, that made the difference. And whether I do a very good job at it or whether I don't do a very good job of it, that is still to be decided or analysed in 20 or 30 years. But to actually say that one sex or another is a better nurturing energy or facilitator, I find is ludicrous.
Wow, that's really interesting, and I can imagine maybe some listeners are having a bit of a challenging time there, especially like when it comes to same-sex marriages, things like that, because your experience has shown that actually your gender does not determine whether you're a nurturer or not. Is this the kind of work that you will be doing with men, helping them to find their place and role in society and in their life? What is it that you really think men need to see differently? Let's put it that way.
Well, it's not the need that I see that men should see the world differently. It's becoming more and more obvious that the world of today can have minor adjustments or major adjustments, and that the facilitation that I hopefully provide and have provided for the last 20 years with men and women is all about what is your authentic energy form, what your authentic path is, and what it is that you choose to create. I facilitate that space so that the energy can create in a form that is designed especially for you. I have chosen recently to only work with men. Working with men is what I'm here to do.
Wow, that's great. I think it's really a good feeling, and when you can say this is what I'm here to do, and I think just in that on its own you could probably help, well, specifically men only, because that's who you've chosen to work with at this point in time. But I think, it's also a message for all of us. Now, you talk a lot about thriving on your website and your blog. Can you please share with us what thriving is for you and why this is so important?
Very interesting question, Trilby. Thriving means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But for me, it is the ability to be, see, know, and feel the way I choose to be. The way I choose to see myself, the way that I choose to interact with people, the way that I know and I am questioning the way I am, and the deep sense of being as true and as free as possible.
Thank you. I think that would, from the outside and from what I've observed, I think that's probably the space where people, not just men, actually have the challenge, is how do they shift from that place of, worrying what other people think about them and expect of them, to what I've understood you describing as that place where that no longer plays a role because you're the number one in your life. So is this the work that you're going to help men with, to shift from that place of personal, social, cultural expectation to this one of authentic being and thriving?
Well, depending on whether that's what the person in front of me wishes, most possibly. But what it really is about is the fact that we can no longer take a back seat, whether we be male or female. And I've chosen to actually work with men and create a space that men can be the man that they were born to be. They don't have to consider the role model that they see on television or in the street. If that doesn't work for them, they can still be men and still participate in the reality of today's world by accepting who they are. Now, whether or not they are old or young, whether or not they are less creative or more masculine than Peter Pan, or as big as Ben-Hur, they all have a space to be the man they choose to be. Does that make it easier?
I think that's great. I think it leaves a place for expansion. I think, like you said, it's time to, step up and not just sit back anymore. Another aspect of your work, I know you're a fantastic artist. I'm very lucky to have a few pieces of your art myself, and I just love your style. Can you talk a bit about, many of the famous artists have been men and spoken of like it's the feminine side of us. So how can you reconcile this with men facilitation? And is it something that needs to be explained or justified? So tell us a bit about your art, please.
Yes. Well, cultural myth says that men can't express themselves, that a true man only says one or two words, and if not, grunt. And that could be considered not very creative by some people. My artwork is actually a platform for me to create and express perhaps what is only possible visually instead of verbally. It's a form of expressing the present.
Thanks. So if you'd like to find out more about Brenton's work, you can contact him via www.Brenton-Consulting.org. Brenton, thank you very much for your time and for being you and for offering this facilitation for men.
Thank you, Trilby.